Welcome to Custer and Wolf Building a Watch Company. I'm RT.
And I'm Tyler.
Today, we are talking about how you can see our watches in person, meet us, check them out, put them on, try them on, and a ton of manufacturing updates and how we're just improving everything we're doing here in the shop. Well, we got two questions today. Well, one question and one very direct comment that happens all the time, and we welcome these. It's feedback that we need. So maybe we start with that one first, do the hardest thing first.
Sure, let's do it.
We called that last video that we made, the title of the YouTube video is called The Watch That Won the War. And we were talking about, the military edition, the Hamilton 4992B, and someone corrected us and said that is basically an overstatement, and that, what about all the wristwatches that were on the ground and the infantry and all that kind of stuff, and listed off all the other wristwatches that helped win World War II. And what he said was very accurate. So I think we can just refine our general title statement to be a little better. And really the full story about the quote, "Watch That Won the War," is that's what a lot of people have said, and we've heard tons of times about really the Hamilton brand. Hamilton Watch Company made a lot of different wristwatches, pocket watches, naval watches, chronometers, things like that for the war efforts in World War II. And then there's tons of other watch companies, Bulova, Waltham. There was lots of other companies that made very accurate timepieces for the war. And so it's probably not accurate to say that any particular watch won the war, even any particular company like Hamilton. But a lot of people do kind of associate Hamilton Watch Company with World War II military timekeeping, if you would agree.
Yeah, totally. The 4992B was not the only military movement that Hamilton produced. It's the only pocket watch that I know of that they produced for the military.
Yeah, they did a couple. Like they did the 3992B, but there wasn't very many of those. And then there was the model, the Model 23, the chronograph. Remember? It's like it's got the pusher on it. We've had a lot of people say like we should.
I've seen those before. Yeah.
The issue with that is we'd have to like totally redo our crown and stem system. We've looked at that one. But I think the answer to this comment / question is we are obviously hyper focused on pocket watches.
Right.
And so wristwatch history from that time frame is a little out of scope for us. And comments like that are a great opportunity for us to re-educate ourselves and learn even more. So thank you for that comment. Keep them coming. But just a correction there was tons of watches that won the war or helped contribute to the war efforts. And obviously it wasn't a watch that won anything. It was the people in the war. So it's all kind of null and void. But in general, bold marketing statements like that are bold for a reason. And we appreciate the feedback. The other actual question that we get all the time, and we're getting a lot right now, I think probably just because it's the fourth quarter, people are like, there's a lot of stuff going on. We're releasing the military edition here pretty soon. This episode will come out about 10 days before we release the military edition for sale. Again, it's November 11th, 12 noon Mountain Time. That's when it's available. By the time it comes out, you'll see what it looks like, but it's on my wrist, so that's kind of cool. A lot of people ask, how do I see your watches in person? A lot of people think like, okay, these are bigger watches, like larger than usual. They want to put it on, they want to check it out, they want to hold it, make sure, there's only so much we can do with video and photo. And we do not have retailers. We don't have retail stores. We don't have a physical presence except for right here in Fort Collins, Colorado. And so we do a ton of shows. So you and I are going to New York City this weekend for the WindUp Watch Fair. What was the last one that you did with me? Was it San Francisco?
Had to have been.
Yeah. That was, pre-pandemic.
Yeah, a long time ago now.
Yeah. But one of the answer to the question is we do shows. They're either like trade shows, open air markets, art fairs. anywhere that high-end art is displayed, we typically look at. And then obviously wristwatch industry things like the WindUp Watch Fair, which this WindUp Watch Fair this weekend in New York City is now, I think, the largest watch trade show in the world because Baselworld doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and it's like at least, at the very minimum, it's the largest American independent brand show in the U.S.
Oh,
That's like
in
for
the
sure.
U.S. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the world, we don't really know, and it's also the only one that I'm aware of that's like free and open to the public. So you can come in and buy watches directly from us and the other brands. You can walk around and see all these. I think there's 60 brands this weekend. Super cool.
That's a lot of people. Yeah, and there's a good range of prices too. It's not like you have to be able to spend $5,000 to attend that fair. You know, you can spend a lot less than that and get a good quality piece from an interesting watch brand and also browse a bunch of other ones. It's a pretty cool opportunity. That, like you said, that there's not much out there like this that you can attend.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple customers who are like flying in for it or driving a long distance for it because it's cool. I mean, if you love watches, it's a good way to see it. It's WindUp Watch Fair, and they do San Francisco, Chicago, and New York now. I think they're going to do more in the future, but New York's the big one. And then we do other things like so after this comes out, there'll be MicroLux, which is a smaller version of that, MicroLux Austin. So that's November 5th and 6th in downtown Austin, Texas, which will be pretty cool. And that'll be, I don't know, 20 brands or something like that in a small space, just watches. And then we always do the Fountain, where we've done it for years, the Fountain Hills, Arizona. It's called Fountain Hills Festival of the Arts. And that's like a high-end art festival. So there's like sculptures and paintings, all kinds of awesome stuff. We're typically the only watch company there, but Fountain Hills, Arizona is just a really wealthy part of the country. A lot of people, a lot of collectors go there, especially in November. There's, I think they call them snowbirds, like people that are coming down from anywhere it's cold.
Right, from here.
From here, yeah. So some benefits of going there, and then we work with Fine Timepiece Solutions there. So kind of a good excuse to see those guys and talk to them. So that's cool. That's November 11th through the 13th. So I'm working with the guys that are going with us to figure out, like, somebody's got to like stand at the booth and talk to customers while I don't know, go hide in a coffee shop somewhere and like hit go on the website for the military edition launch. So that'll be fun. But that's always exciting because I'm sure we'll have people that come to that in person to see the military edition. And then after that, there's One of a Kind Chicago, which is December 1st through 4th. And the One of a Kind show is at the Merchandise Mart in Chicago. And it's what it sounds like. It's one of a kind stuff. We're typically one of one or two watch companies there. So again, it's like art and other just interesting things. And so, yeah, those, that's Arizona, Illinois, New York. We do a bunch of those things. Yeah, Texas. And I just started putting, if you're interested in seeing us at one of those shows, I just started putting a list of upcoming events at the bottom of our weekly email. So if you're not on that list, you're probably on that list if you're watching this video because you got an email about it. But we send an email every Tuesday afternoon, and at the bottom of that email is upcoming events. So check that out. Great question. That's really, besides coming here to Colorado, one of the only ways to see our watches in person.
Yeah, if you're here, you can schedule a tour.
Yep. Yeah, hit us up. If you can't find the link on the website, it's just info@vorticwatches.com. Shoot us an email, and we'll give you a tour. We've done a bunch recently. It's been really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to start with? I mean, right now it's just all military all the time, pretty much.
Yeah, update. Basically the last 2 weeks has been mostly military focused. We just this morning finished all of the buckle rims for the military. Those are different than the rest that we make each year. We make everything down to the buckle. We've probably got 20 of the stainless cases finished already. We got bronze watch built, so we'll have that with us for
the WindUp
Watch Fair in New York.
Yep. Which is good because we got I don't want to jinx it, but the PR company is talking to a very large newspaper.
That's cool.
About doing a story. So, that's cool. Hopefully we get one thing like that.
Yeah, so then this weekend I made all of the jigs for the military, because this year we're patining every case. So this way we protect like some of the sealing surfaces and the threads as we're sandblasting and prepping them for some of that patina process.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, Sky is continuing to get the Swiss online. The Swiss is the more difficult of the two new machines that we got. It's just a really specialized machine, and DMG does not have anybody in Colorado that knows how to use it.
Right. It's pretty cool.
I got to give them credit. They got it set up for us, and they got it working and could teach us how to like turn it on and jog the axes a little bit.
Yeah.
But Sky's kind of learning on his own. And we've got some options. All of them involve a price tag for training or having somebody come here for training, either going somewhere for training or somebody coming here for training, which is something we don't really have time and money for at this moment, maybe next year. So Sky's kind of just working on using the basics and just kind of doing one small thing at a time. Like maybe we don't have to use both spindles.
Yeah.
Like maybe we can just kind of use it like a single spindle machine and just make a part and then start sewing multiple different things together. Start with just the main spindle, make a part on the main spindle. Then maybe add a bar push, get the bar loader working, then maybe add the sub spindle. It'll be a process to get this thing operating at full speed. And then probably the biggest thing, update on the manufacturing side of things, is we are going to change the 12 size slightly. It's hard to describe because we're kind of doing something in between what we're making now and the V3 version. And for people that don't follow us closely, this is going to be super confusing. But basically, over the last year, we've been transitioning from what we call the version 2 to version 3.
Right.
And there are a lot of differences between those. A lot of them are internal and just for manufacturing purposes and assembly. But basically, we redesigned everything from the bottom up. And it looks a little bit different, but internally, everything about it is better. And we are currently making the V3 version of the regular 16 size watches and the Railroad edition watches, which you've probably seen. Some of those are up for sale on the website. So those are starting to trickle through. That's what I'm talking about with the V3 style. You can see the lugs look a little bit different. The bezel looks a little bit different. And it's a 3-piece case. So the bezel is removable as opposed to the regular 12 size, or the V2 12 size rather. So basically these last 2 weeks, it came time to make more of the V2 parts, and we need to make a new collet for the 12 size. So we kind of got thinking about the best way to move forward as we design and build the V3 version of the 12 size.
And I think I can kind of summarize for the people like me in the back that are like, hey, this is cool, but like, what the hell did you just say? Like you said, and totally correct me if I'm wrong. But the point is, everything on the website right now, if you go to vorticwatches.com/watches, they're all antique American pocket watches that we turn into wristwatches.
Correct.
We build case engineering systems to preserve that piece of American history inside. So the dial, hands, and movement are all original. We are simply optimizing that engineering that houses the mechanisms inside. So when Tyler says version 2, that's a 2-piece case. It's 1 piece on the top of the case and then 1 piece on the back, like on his wrist. And you actually have a good example is that's a 3D printed titanium case that we haven't done in a long time. There is nothing wrong with what's on your wrist. It does the job. The job is to preserve that piece of American history. What we're doing is twofold. One is just incremental changes to make it better. And better can be defined in a million ways that I'm sure might be a whole freaking episode. And actually, that's pretty cool. Like you could do
make a whole episode on what V3 is. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And go in depth on there. You know, a little small improvements. I mean, 1% better every day is something that you know a lot of people talk about. So we're just trying to make everything better in general from an engineering standpoint. And then from a business standpoint, since we are building not just one watch company, but multiple watch companies, multiple product lines, we're coming out with like we talked about on a previous episode, we're coming out with a new thing every 3 months or so. If you want to do that, you have to standardize as much as possible and make things that are simple and repeatable, which is also better for engineering, because when it's repeatable, it's better in general. And so that's really the focus, and has been the focus since we moved into this new building. We got all these new machines. Is how do we make things in a way that we never have to redo it or make it differently again, and we can just make more instead of make it new.
Yeah, that's all great context to frame what I'm saying. But like the big picture is we are transitioning to this new style of case, and there's a lot of benefits to it. So we want to do it. But we need to continue producing the old style of case so we continue releasing watches through this time, because like we've said before, this is the only way we make money. So
Right.
If we don't build watches, we don't make money, and none of this exists. So that's a dilemma. It's coming out with the new stuff as we're keeping up with old stuff. Not old, but current stuff.
It's like,
so the idea is we're going to take the current version of the 12 size, make some tweaks to it, transfer it from the VM to the 5-axis, which we have capacity on between like currently that machine's just for prototyping. So we are going in between prototyping, because I can't be prototyping all day. I need to go and do stuff on my computer. I need to design and program. So in between prototyping, it has time. So during that time, we can make the 12 size case. And there's so many benefits from using the 5-axis: reduced amount of operations, reduced human interaction, that it'll go faster and should help us get more in stock with the 12 size faster with machine time that we're currently not using, as well as making a few changes to the case that now our 12 size will accept the V3 version of the hardware. So the crown, the band bars, case tube, sleeve, stem, things of that nature. So it would allow us to put more of our focus on those V3 products, instead of having our focus kind of in two spots on the current product and the new product, and allow us to focus more on just the V3 stuff on the VM2. So we can be continuing to make the military and also continuing to move through the different models of the railroad. Because one of the biggest things that is different about the V3 than the current model is that we need to make a different case for each different model of movement.
Yep.
The current case, we make one case, and then we have Delrin inserts that we've made custom for each movement, but the case stays the same. Now we're making a different case for each movement. So that takes a while. Just keeping up with current production has been taking away from our ability to keep moving forward. So this kind of little switcheroo and small upgrade as we're switching is, I think, going to really help.
You remember like early 2020 when we were like, all right, 2020 is going to be our year, I think a lot of people said that.
As we do every year.
And then, we've continued to say that since. The goal we wrote on the top of the whiteboard in 2020 before stuff hit the fan, and we had to pivot a little bit and bat down the hatches, was become the best in the world at what we do. And we talked about that a lot. And there's really not many, if any, people that do what we do. So it was more like an internal, like, how do we just make all of this better? And I like the idea, like, we can do a lot more content around what is version 3, but that's where all these engineering improvements came from. It's just like, all right, if we're going to preserve American history inside wristwatches and no one else is really doing this, how do we do it the best? And that's what it is. It's just constant iteration and making it as best as we can, while also making it sustainable so we can keep doing it, because people keep wanting to buy them. And I think most of our customers don't necessarily buy it for the case. Like, I think most people like V2, V3, 3D printed, machined, bronze, most of our customers buy it for the history inside, the dial, we've been advised, like, it's really all about the dial. But it only tells a good story if we preserve it properly, is really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you don't, like, we want to do more than one thing. We have plans to do lots of stuff in the future, but once you start doing more than one thing, when you stack these things on top, if you don't have a solid foundation, it all crumbles.
Yeah.
So that's something we've talked about a ton too. That's what V3 is. It's a more solid foundation and process. We're removing all external suppliers for metal parts. For this current product on my wrist, we're buying some of these parts from a supplier, from a Swiss turning supplier.
Yep.
But now that we have all these machines in-house, we're making everything ourselves. So
Yeah, this is all here.
yeah, and when it comes,
mostly.
I think the way that I say what you were just talking about with like improvement is if we find a better way to do it, we do it that way.
Yeah, and we keep finding.
As simple as that.
Yeah, we totally keep finding better ways to do it. And like you said, there's lots of other things we can do and want to do. And I think I pitched you 3 new ideas while I was at dinner with Lindsay on Saturday night. I was I'm sorry. I was like on a date with her, but I was just like so freaking excited. I was just like, I blew you up on Slack. And then you sent me a bunch of feedback the next day. And that's, I mean, yeah, there's like that we probably added at least 1 or 2 other things to our list of like, yeah, we should probably do that. When? I don't know. But there's always another thing. So the foundation analogy is perfect. And we're still working on that. And that's okay. Like that's all part of the plan, part of the process.
But I mean, once that foundation is laid properly, which hoping we're there in the next 6 months,
we're closer
at
now.
least a lot closer in 6 months.
Yeah.
You're never there,
yeah,
quote unquote there. But once we get there and you have a solid foundation to build upon, you can build your building a lot faster
Way
than
faster.
if everything's shaky at the bottom. So
100%. Yep.
that's the dream.
Yep. 100%. So while you've been working on all that stuff, I've mostly been planning the military edition launch. I mean, this is a big thing every year. This will be our 4th year doing it. So I had 7 emails go out to our military email list. It's like we call it the waiting list. If you're not on that, it's vorticwatches.com/military. You can sign up for future things. But we just highlighted everything we've done for the last 4 years or last 3 years, all the different watches, lots of pictures of all those watches, lots of things coming together. And then we filmed, and I think we talked about in the last episode how much time it took. But watching those videos, 100,000% worth it. Like the videos that we have coming out for this year's military edition, that I guess by the time this airs, you've seen, amazing. Like I showed it to a couple other people, and they're like, "Dude, is this like a trailer for like the History Channel special?"
Right.
Like
It looks like there's a movie.
it's like the 2 minutes of videos done. It's like, okay, well, how do I watch the film? That's the point.
Yeah,
And
super cool to see it.
Super exciting. William and Brandon and the team just crushed that. So thank you to the team watching. Made us look good.
Yeah.
And sound good. I should really get slightly sick before we do those. Like the raspiness really, it's a whole vibe. So that came together really well, I think. And then the emails are going out. We're announcing it this weekend at WindUp in New York, which will be super fun. And then you're going to hear this a lot, and we're going to keep saying it because people still miss it all the time. I don't understand how. November 11th at 12 noon Mountain Time, vorticwatches.com/military. That's how you buy the military edition. Every year, 4th year in a row. Some of them sold out in minutes. Some of them sold out in a couple days. We have no idea what to expect. We tried a bunch of new things this year. Hopefully people like it. Got another special edition this year, which I was looking at the special edition we did in 2020. And when I was typing that email, I was like, this was the coolest watch that we've ever made. And now I think this year is now again the coolest watch we've ever made. So that's the point. It's everything we were just talking about. We're trying to outdo ourselves, trying to get better, trying to make cool stuff. And a lot of the content is historical. And so like that last video we put out about the watch that won the war and all the history behind it, like that's really cool. I love talking about that stuff. Most of the questions we get are about history. I did a little thing with my friend Lee on this new app called Whatnot, which is like this like live, it's almost like live eBay. It's like a live auction thing. It was pretty cool. And he did this whole promotion. It was selling Hamilton wristwatches, like mostly from the 50s and 60s, had a bunch of like cool stuff that he was just selling. And he asked me to come on and talk about the history of Hamilton. Fortunately or unfortunately, know a lot about the history of Hamilton. And it was really fun. I just love, like, I brought that box and talked about all the different military watches they made. But yeah, a lot of really cool storytelling around the military edition, especially. But it just always, like, I don't know about you, but it like reinvigorates like why we do what we do. It's like, yeah, this is really cool. That's what we've been working on. And yeah, now we have to do all of that and keep that all up while we travel for a few days. Should be good. Got a lot of stuff going on, but I'm excited.
Yeah, watches will be made. We've got Billy working in the machine room. We've got Derek and Kent in the assembly room, and everybody's just cruising away right now.
Show goes on. And we might, actually, speaking of the show going on, we might try to film one of these while we're in New York, or at least some content there to show people, you know, if you can't make it to one of those shows. It's cool. I'm sure we can at least get a Instagram video or something of walking around and seeing all the different brands. But I love that stuff. I love meeting all those people too. Our industry is small, but it's a lot bigger than you think.
Yeah, just good inspiration.
For sure. And realizing that we can do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us today on Custer and Wolf Building a Watch Company. Like we talked about in the beginning of the episode, we got a lot of opportunity to come see us in person, a lot of shows coming up. Check out that email, the bottom of the email, for those event dates and locations and all that kind of stuff. If you're not on the email list, that's the only way to find all this information. VorticWatches.com. You can sign up for our email list. And again, when this episode comes out, you'll have about 10 days before November 11th. And that's when we launch the military edition. And that's VorticWatches.com/military to learn more. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.